So for the next presentation, just before we listen to the pitches from our 11 finalists, we have a conversation centered around scaling the dream building solutions. And this will be delivered by the investment lead for Techstars Toronto. Prior to joining Techstars, Alisha founded Plan A pre-accelerator for women-led startups across sub-Saharan Africa. She is a catalyst for entrepreneurial transcendence, bridging startup and investments across the continent and the global diaspora for collaboration and opportunity. She believes strongly in catalyzing underrepresented and underserved entrepreneurs in Africa and how they can unlock a new narrative across the diaspora, inspire collaboration between the continent and the diaspora, and ignite an emerging wave of leaders globally. Ladies and gentlemen, please let's make welcome Alisha Golden, Investment Lead Techstars, for her presentation. A round of applause for Alisha Golden. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Hi. I'm so happy to be here with all of you today, and also to listen to some really incredible pitches coming up here shortly. It's kind of funny. A couple of months ago, sitting in a room with Mr. Ebenezer and Dr. Tope talking about this hackathon, I'm thinking, a bunch of engineers and innovators in like a dark room, just coding away, and then we pick a winner, right? This is incredible. Little did I know that I would be at the epicenter of the kickoff initiation of Silicon Valley for Africa. And so well done for all of you. Thank you, Zenith Bank, for having me here today. I think before I jump into my talk, Scaling the Dream, I have quite a bit to say on that. I want to just start us off with something sobering that we can all take in before we listen to these incredible pitches. But as we think about innovation and entrepreneurship through the lens of driving us forward as a whole. I'm sure many of you know, but I'm just going to say it here again today. 80% of small businesses and startups fail within the first 3 years. That's alarming. That's extremely alarming for me, investing in early stage startups. But I think there's something to take away from this. There's a couple of reasons of why this happens, but in particularly there's three key areas that I think are of utmost importance for us to think through today, not only when we're listening to the pitches, but many of you in this room are builders, you're creators, you're startup CEOs, you're investors. Your future LPs, and you're also looking at the ecosystem and the landscape at the moment and thinking, how do we deepen our focus and impact in really powering Nigeria's startup ecosystem? Some of the reasons these businesses fail, harsh economic conditions. Right now, many of you as founders, and including the founders in our portfolio, are dealing with the reality of inflation and fuel scarcities and things like that. And this impacts the cost of doing business. There's a variety of influences of why this takes place. But nonetheless, it's something to keep in mind as you are building. The second is lack of access to capital. This is an important discussion that I like to talk about, and I think is very important today in this room as we listen to new budding startups being built and think about their journey from today onward. And then the last point that I think is really important here is the lack of collaboration. I think a consistent theme today that we heard was not only is what we're doing here today and what you're all building here and investing in important for Nigeria, but it's also important for a Pan-African focus. Nigeria wins when all African countries are collaborating more and when there's more cross-border trade, including not only in Africa, but across the diaspora. Canada, Toronto, we all win. So before I get into Scaling the Dream, I'll just give you a brief intro about me. I lead investments for Techstars Toronto. As you've heard, I've built on the continent for the past 5 years, fueled by a conviction that the diaspora doesn't win until the continent wins, and both of our winning is interconnected. And so without one, there isn't the other. And so I've made it my mission to fuel not only the collaboration between the continent and across the diaspora, but to help founders win and succeed at an exponential level. So how that plays out is, for Techstars, we've invested in 29 companies across Africa. I will tell you today that 26 of those are Nigerian. Yeah, it's incredible. And I'll tell you even more, 20 of those have happened in the last year during my tenure with Techstars Toronto. There's something really special and unique happening across the tech ecosystem here in Nigeria, and the resilience that founders coming from here have as they are building, I think is remarkable. And I think it's something not only to be celebrated, but something to be leaned into and anchored into and propelled even more. Hence my being here today and my continued commitment to seeing founders in this room and across the country to win. These are some of the incredible faces of the founders of those 29 companies. I'm sure some of these faces many of you recognize, as well as the company logos on the previous slide. One of them being here today, founder of RPass, CEO Sam Easy. Yeah, he did. That deserves an applause. You know, I think from a global perspective, we talk about diversity and inclusion, including Africa in the global talks of innovation in regard to not only banking, but building, health, 3D printing. But as we've heard here today, and I'm sure many of you know, Africa's finance ecosystem and fintech ecosystem is far advanced than the rest of the world. There's so much opportunity to scale that outward, and this is why we at Techstars Toronto are really passionate and committed to investing in more founders like this. And I will let you know that all of these founders, the most of them I would say, are still building here while looking for ways to collaborate in the Canadian ecosystem and with public and private sectors there. The goal is not to japa everyone in this country. The goal is to find and build pipelines and pathways for collaboration globally so that we have more African unicorns. We have another Flutterwave. We have another Paystack. We have Andelas in this room that are being built and scaled globally for the rest of the world. So what that looks like in the numbers, I think this is also a really important slide. Not only for the founders in this room, but also the investors and the LPs. Of these 29 companies, they've raised about $27 million. That's not including any fundraising done by our current class, which is 12 companies, 9 of which are African, 8 of which are Nigeria. They'll be graduating in December 15th, and so beyond that point, they'll start to fundraise, and this number will shoot up astronomically. They have a valuation of about $789 million. And like I said before, many of these investments, 20 to be exact, out of the 26 Nigerian were just made in the last year. So expect this number to continue and continue to rise. We are really just at the beginning of all of this. And it's such an honor to be in this room with so many builders and innovators who are going to either be on this screen or another screen of Zenith Banks and be invested in by people in this room and be the ones to watch and on the rise for the future. So if you look at our portfolio as a whole, we've been around for 5 years. We've made 77 investments. We have a global thesis, as you can see. We've invested across 4 continents, a lot across Africa, as you can see, and 11 countries. This is our portfolio. Many of these logos you might recognize. Some are in Southeast Asia, some in Canada, some in North America, so Ghana as well, Rwanda. So just keep these in mind. I show this to say the context of how we're investing. 29 companies across Africa out of 77 is no small feat. And we only continue to up this number in the future. And as for that, I'm just going to go back one. As for that number of 27 million, my goal and my mission is to increase that astronomically. And I would like to see that increase by more African LPs, more African investors, general partners, driving the capital into these businesses, because Africa wins when we all win. And it's gotta be, it come from a place of for us, by us. And just to kind of wrap it up, because I know we're eager to get into the pitches and subsequently lunch, right? I don't want to keep you. Our total portfolio has raised about 139 million, and as you saw, 27 of that is coming out of our African company portfolio, 26 of those being Nigeria. There we go. This is a really important slide. Of these 77 companies, they're employing 1,800 people. I would say more than half of that is coming from our African portfolio companies for a variety of reasons. Bigger teams, cost of labor is slightly less than in North American regions. But what this does to an economy is something truly remarkable and special. This room is going to power the next economy. The future leaders are in this room. They're currently building companies, and this is what we have to look forward to in the future. So, actually, before I go into this, I just want to say, I talked about the problem and the challenge of 80% of companies dying in the first 3 years. I didn't mean to be a doomsday specialist with that stat. What I do want to say is, as you build in this room, and as you think of investing in and supporting the ecosystem of startups, I would like to propose that you think through this lens. Having the right support system is of the utmost importance. The community in which you're engaging, fellow founders, ones that are building, focused on the right metrics and the right things, key stakeholders and partners. This is exactly why you're in this room here, in the helm of Zenith Bank, listening to and engaging with the community of Zenith Bank that is so committed to being innovative and driving innovation for the future, and not working against fintechs and startups, but working with. This is key to building unicorns of the future. And then also think about the global diaspora. I think we run the mistake whenever we try to solve a problem of thinking that this problem is unique to us. No problem is. If we look at history, if we look at other global economies, this problem has existed somewhere else. And how have they solved? Let's look through that lens. Let's think through that lens. I know that every country is unique, culture is unique, and some of the challenges are specific to this region. But there's no need to reinvent the wheel completely. There's so much opportunity in saving time, but also collaboration and looking at what others have done and building through that lens. At a glance, this is who we are and this is what we've done. Out of that, 80% of companies not existing in the, 3 years, we don't really have that. The 3 companies that we have that have gone out of business in the last 5 years are not in Africa. They're actually, I think, in Canada. And so this is through the numbers how you can see that the importance of not only community and collaboration, but looking through a global lens and working together with stakeholders has been at the core of what we do and will continue to be at the core. And anyone here in this room who is looking to build a company, support as an ecosystem partner through governance or private sector, public sector, investors, LPs, please keep this in mind. With these 3 components at the helm of your support for the startup ecosystem, This 80% doesn't need to apply to you. As you can see, this is, you can see, this is our current class of investments. They'll be graduating December 15th. These are all Nigerian companies with the exception of one based out of Kenya. I'm sure many of you know these founders, maybe some are in the room, but also in your local ecosystem. Watch what they're doing, connect with them, collaborate with them. They're here, they're your friends. We operate with a mantra of give first. And so if you connect with them from a general standpoint, I'm sure they'll be willing and open to collaborate with you. I myself am here for the rest of the day. If you want to stop me and you want to ask questions, you'll also see me on stage judging the pitches. I'm here as well. I want all of you to win. Everyone in this room is building the future and also the today. So give yourself a round of applause. Thank you so much.